Good morning and good afternoon. Good morning in Nigeria and good afternoon in Nepal. Today we have a match between two teams. Two teams will have their third match. We are in the group F in the Inter-University Law Debate Tournament. This is the end of the group phase. And we have a Kathmandu University who will have a debate against the University of Lagos. The two teams received a topic a week ago. This will, of course, hear more about it just before the match, but first we want to know who are the debaters for today. So I would like to give the floor first to Miss Surangana Dakal in Nepal.
Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon to my teammates. I am Surangana Takal, and I'm very excited for today's debate. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. We have as well in Lagos Osibudu Shalom Oluwa Mureva.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Oshibodi Shalom Oluwamiriwa, and I'm very pleased to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. As well, we have in Kathmandu Miss Kritika Casey. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me here, and I'm really excited for this third session of the debate.
Thank you. Welcome. In Lagos, we have as well Mr. Adebayo Rokib Opeyemi.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning to my opponents from Kathmandu University. My name is Rokib Adebayo, and I am excited to partake in today's debate.
Thank you and welcome. And we have as well in Nepal Samridi Mainali. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. I am Samridi Mayali, and I feel privileged to represent my university at this debating platform today. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. And a third member for the team from Lagos, Mr. Peter Aguirre.
Morning, everyone. My name is Peter Aguirre, and I'm very glad to be here.
Thank you, welcome. I would like as well to thank the coach. I guess we have maybe watching Professor Dr. Issa Adedokun from Lagos, coach for the Nigerian team, and also the Kathmandu University. I believe Shreya Yoshi, who is coach for several years, is maybe watching, I think, from Singapore. I'm not sure, but I think she's in Singapore at this moment. The topic which was sent to the two teams a week ago was multinational asset managers must implement liquidity safeguards consistent with international supervision standards. Now I will share my screen for the allocation of positions, so the randomizing of the positions even. So I guess you may see a wheel. Do you see a wheel? Yeah. On your screen? Not yet? Yes, okay. I'm not always sure if the time it takes, but yes. So as you can see, there are two possibilities for each team to be in favor, to be against the motion. The team will be in favor, will be starting the match with the first introduction. For this match, the team in favor will be the University of Lagos, and will be starting the first introduction. As a consequence, Kathmandu University will be against the motion. So you will have now 5 minutes to review your notes, and then, oh sorry, I will give it well, you will have 5 minutes to review your notes. It's behind. Voila, the timer was here. And then we'll hear the introduction from Lagos. So we are done with the 5 minutes of preparation. So it means that, of course, we'll be able to start the debate, but before we start, I just want to remind that you will have to look at the camera of Miss Lal for the yellow card and the red card. Yellow when 30 seconds remaining, and red when it is the end of the speaking time. So now we give the floor. Yeah, thank you very much. Now it will be time to start the debate, so I give the floor to the University of Lagos for your introduction. You have 4 minutes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are
Can you
audible.
see me?
Yes.
All right. Honorable judges, distinguished colleagues, my name is Oshibodi Shalom Oluwamariwa. I am a student, but so also am I an investor with assets across multiple countries, including the opposition's home country, Nepal. Today, investing is no longer bound by borders, and it must be protected to prevent investors like me and you from the recurrence of past financial crisis. I would like to start by defining some key terms. By liquidity, we need the ability to quickly convert assets into cash without losing significant value. By multinational asset managers, we mean institutions managing pooled funds across multiple jurisdictions. By liquidity safeguards, we refer to mechanisms that ensure that we can meet redemption requests without destabilizing losses. I would submit 3 points. First, liquidity mismatch creates systemic fragility. Second, interconnected markets transmit shock across borders. And third, consistent standards are necessary for investor protection and market discipline. First, liquidity mismatch creates fragility. This arises when investors can quickly withdraw funds and hold assets that cannot be sold for liquidity without losses. This happened in the 2008 global financial crisis, where asset managers in the United States were giving out mortgages faster than the patrons could repay, and this led to debt. The same structure persists today. During the COVID-19 market liquidity crisis of 2020, open-ended bond funds faced mass redemptions, pressuring credit markets, and led to bank intervention at the end of the day. Legal systems already respond to this. The United States Securities and Exchange Commission requires liquidity classification, stress testing, and minimum liquidity knowledge. And also, the European Union undertakings of Collective Investment in Transferable Sources Directive and the Alternative Investment Fund Managers Directive impose similar duties. These exist because the liquidity mismatch is a recurring structural risk. On to my second point, interconnected markets transmit shocks globally. Multinational asset managers hold similar assets worldwide. Stress in one market leads to portfolio rebalancing elsewhere and everywhere. In the United Kingdom, for example, the gilt crisis of 2022 demonstrated the rising yields with triggering margins calls and forced sellings by institutional investors affecting global portfolios. International bodies like the Financial Stability Board, FSB, and the International Organization of Securities Commission, IOSCO, promote coordinated liquidity risk management, but their standards are soft laws because they are not binding. Implementation differs across jurisdictions, allowing risk to migrate to weaker regulatory environments. Third, consistent standards protect investors and maintain discipline. Investors often cannot observe the true liquidity profile of their assets. In stress situations, early redeemers exit fully while remaining investors bear losses, creating inequality. Tools such as swing pricing, redemption gates, and the liquidity classification frameworks help ensure fair cost allocation and other redemptions. The Woodford Equity Income Fund collapsed in 2019, for example, where a UK fund holding illiquid assets suspended withdrawals after heavy redemptions illustrates a perfect example of the consequences of inadequate illiquidity management. Across major regimes, including the Investment Company Act of 1940, the UCITS Directive, and the AIFMD, a consistent principle emerges. Investor protection depends on proper liquidity risk management. In conclusion, the 2008 crisis, COVID-19 market stress, and the UK gilt shock all confirm that liquidity risk persists. Liquidity mismatch breeds fragility, interconnected markets spread that fragility, and consistent standards are necessary to contain it. Global standard is achieved not through isolation, but through coordinated regulation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now we hear as well the introduction on the side of Kathmandu University. You have 4 minutes.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Respected adjudicators, honorable members of the debate, and our opponents, good afternoon. We as the opposition stand firmly against the motion multinational asset managers must implement liquidity safeguards consistent with international supervision standards. The proposition paints a picture of global financial Wild West that needs strict top-down control. But that ignores a simple reality. Today's financial system is more liquid, more resilient, and better capitalized than ever before. We're not in the immediate aftermath of 2008 crisis anymore. So the real question is not whether regulation is needed, but imposing rigid international standards will actually create more problems than they solve. This debate is not about whether financial stability matters. Judges, it is about whether uniform global standards are the right way to achieve that stability or whether they oversimplify complex and the very different financial systems across the world. Multinational asset managers, including firms like BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street Global Advisors, operate across borders and manage huge amounts of capital. Their influence is real, and we do not deny that. But global influence does not automatically justify uniform global regulation. To understand why, we need to look at international law. As recognized by United Nations Trade and Development Investment Policy Hub, international investment law works through a decentralized system built on bilateral agreements, customary norms, and soft law, not a single binding framework. And this is intentional. It allows states to design regulations based on their own economic conditions, institutions, and market realities. Even when international standards exist, they are often not binding, and that is by design. As noted in 2024 report of the International Law Commission, soft law is meant to guide and not compel. And in cases like Texaco versus Libya, it is clear that non-binding instruments cannot be treated as enforceable obligations. So, judges, the key principle here is simple. International coordination does not mean mandatory uniformity. Now, let me clarify the motion ahead. We accept the definitions of multinational asset managers and liquidity safeguards given by the proposition. We also accept that international supervision standards are widely recognized. But where we disagree on is one key issue, whether these standards should be binding. And that is the real question in this debate. Right now, financial regulation is mainly domestic. Different countries face different market conditions, levels of development, and financial risk. So, regulatory diversity is not a weakness, it is necessary. For that reason, our stance is clear. We oppose the mandatory implementation of liquidity safeguards based on international supervision standards. Instead, we support a system where states keep the authority to design their own regulation based on their own needs, while using the international standards as guidance and not obligation. This approach is supported by cases and frameworks such as NADA versus Switzerland, ECHR, WTO interpretations of TBTS, ARSIWA commentary, and the joint 2016 study by the OECD and ISO. Within this framework, our case will develop along two key areas. First, the danger of regulatory complexity and overregulation, and second, the reality of regulatory arbitrage and uneven enforcement. Furthermore, now my second speaker will take these forward with a detailed explanation, and our third speaker will engage directly with the proposition and show why their model creates more risks than it solves. At its core, this debate asks a simple question. Should the global financial governance focus on uniformity or adaptability? And we firmly stand for adaptability, and for that reason, we strongly oppose the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I give the floor to the University of Lagos for your first rebuttal. You have 2 minutes.
Am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Honorable judges, the opposition have made several points, but these points collapse on cross-examination. They claimed that this debate topic is not about financial stability. They are trying to separate the goal from the two. They agree stability is good, but they reject the only method of guaranteeing it. You cannot argue for financial stability while opposing the mandatory implementation of the standards that curate it. The logic is simple. Implementation is like an insurance policy. The opposition is essentially saying, I agree the house shouldn't burn down, but I shouldn't have bought a fire fire extinguisher until I see smoke. Judges, this debate, judges, the opposition says this isn't a debate about stability. We agree, but we have already won that point. But to go without a plan is just a dream. This debate is about accountability. Second, judges, the opposition is hiding behind a textbook definition of binding while ignoring the reality of global markets. International standards like the IOSCO, International Organization of Security Commission Organization, and the Financial Stability Board, FSB, are the golden key. If a multinational manager in Nigeria or Brazil or Nepal wants to manage European or American capital, they must follow these standards that have been created by international bodies. You can call it non-binding all you want, but if you don't implement them, you are effectively locked out of 90% of the world's wealth. In finance, a suggestion from a global regulator is a command for anyone who wants to stay in business. Judges, they further argued the opposition is using market realities as a polite euphemism for market vulnerabilities. But in the globalized economy, there is no such thing as an isolated crisis. Where a multinational manager fails in one corner of the world, the effect doesn't stop at the border or ask for a visa. It triggers a domino effect that devalues the savings of families thousands of miles away. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now here as well the first rebuttal from Kathmandu University. You have as well 2 minutes.
Can you hear me and see me well?
Yes, you are audible and visible.
Okay, so I'll start in 3, 2, 1, start. Respected judges, our first argument is that the quest for global consistency often leads to overly conservative, excessively complex rules that tax economic growth. The Institute of International Finance, IIF, warns that when rules are layered with duplicative add-ons, they reduce the ability of financial institutions to support households and businesses. In the European Union, complexity and overregulation have already been identified as major obstacles to competitiveness, as highlighted by Butcher and Goldberg in a policy brief. They note that excessive regulatory requirements can increase costs, slow down operations, and make it harder for firms to remain agile and competitive. Even in the US, authorities are currently reviewing where parts of the financial framework impose undue burdens that undermine financial stability by harming growth, as per the US Financial Stability Oversight Council. By forcing multinational asset managers to adhere to a single international standard, we risk ignoring the time-bound, evidence-based reviews highlighted by Guy and Kemp, which show that many of these requirements no longer deliver benefits that justify their costs. The complexity is not a safeguard. It is a vulnerability that encourages managing to the rulebook rather than managing the actual risk. Secondly, we argue that one-size-fits-all international standards fail to account for the vast differences in asset classes and market structures across jurisdictions. As per the IMF, while liquid management tools can manage the idiosyncratic risk, they are often insufficient in a systematic crisis where market liquidity dries up completely. According to the Irish Fund's response to ISCO consultation, mandating uniform buffers and anti-dilution tools risks paralyzing markets by reducing managers' flexibility to respond to local conditions, which can hurt fund performance and investor returns. Hence, we contend that true stability comes from diversity and sound management, not rigid, one-size-fits-all rules. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we hear the second rebuttals. We start with the second rebuttal of the University of Lagos. You have 2 minutes.
Honorable judges, we need to be very clear. The opposition is debating as if we are still designing the blueprint. But the blueprints were signed, sealed, and delivered years ago by the FSB and IOSCO. There are minimum standards established that for these multinational asset managers to follow. We are not advocating for strict rules, for more rules. We are basically saying that let us implement the liquidity safeguards consistent with international supervision standards. Judges, to argue against implementation now is like an architect agreeing that a skyscraper needs a foundation, but the builder refusing to actually pour the concrete because of local market realities. Also, judges, the opposition argued that we are proposing a one-size-fits-all approach. Judges, we understand that every country has their own, every multinational asset managers have their own realities. We are not saying everyone should act the same way. You should act within your capacity. We should have minimum rules because it is not for the sake of, it is not just, it is for the sake of the whole world. These multinational asset managers are not just managing assets for a particular set of persons, but they manage assets that belong to the world, that belong to the people, that belong to pensioners, judges, and that is why we are proposing, judges, that is why we are arguing today that implementation of redemption gates, swing pricing, and other minimum standards that have been laid down by FSBs and IOSCO are important for global stability. Honorable judges, international supervision standards in this scenario is necessary for global stability because global stability is the foundation for prosperity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now here as well the second rebuttal on the side of Kathmandu University. You have as well 2 minutes.
Okay, I'll be starting in 3, 2, 1, start. Respected judges, as opposed to what the opposition is contending, we are not ignoring the reality here. All we're saying is we acknowledge the diversity that is taking place in all of this country, and we are proposing that all of the countries have the discretion to do so in their own terms and to their own aid of realities. The opposition also highlighted how the liquid management tools protect the investors, but they fail to account for the redemption gates and the exit penalties that happened during the crisis like the COVID-19 crisis. Now, respected judges, our second argument addresses the myth of international consistency. While standard-setting bodies like the FSB and ISCO develop guidelines, implementation remains the responsibility of domestic regulators. This leads to significant cross-border fragmentation and regulatory divergence. As per Anita Yani in the World Journal of Advanced Research and Reviews, this becomes especially significant because multinational asset managers operate across multiple jurisdictions, each with different regulatory philosophies, enforcement intensity, and market conditions. And also, the opposition is contending for a uniformity, but they're forgetting that there could be the situation of bank shopping and regulatory arbitrage, which would undermine the very standards that they're advocating for right now. As a result, firms can shop for the most favorable regulatory environment without necessarily improving investor protection, as per the Center of Global Development. So countries differ widely in their timing and interpretation of these rules. Some regulations have stronger supervisory capacity, while others may face resource constraints, political pressures, or weaker legal system. This creates a gap between law in theory and law in practice. So mandating a single standard simply creates opportunities for regulatory arbitrage, where activity migrates from highly regulated banks to less regulated ones. And there is a situation of a less transparent situation, and it is also seen in the trend of shadow banking followed by the Basel Accords. So instead of a global level playing field, we end up with a system where risk is not eliminated, but is merely pushed into the dark. This shows that harmonized systems won't solve the problem unless enforcement is equally strong everywhere. So hence, we contend that the firms will still find gaps, and there will be rigid global rules may simply push activity into less transparent spaces. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now we are moving to the conclusions. So we start with the conclusion by the University of Lagos. You have 2 minutes.
Can I confirm that I'm visible and audible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. I'm starting now. Honorable Chair, esteemed judges, and respected opponents. We open today's debate with a simple premise. Financial systems do not collapse because assets disappear. They collapse when liquidity vanishes and confidence breaks simultaneously. Everything that has followed has only reinforced that truth. Throughout the course of today's debate, we have advanced several points. First, liquidity mismatch creates systemic fragility. Second, interconnected markets transmit shocks across borders. And third, consistent standards are necessary for investor protection and market discipline. Also, we proposed that we do not need new rules. We only need to implement the different mechanisms that has been laid down by the FPS and the IOSCO, like stress testing, swing pricing, and the likes. These are bare minimum. The opposition today has come to argue that these international supervision standards are too rigid, too broad, and too burdensome for the diversity of global markets. But the absence of a standard is not flexibility. It's an invitation for risk to migrate precisely to the places least equipped to absorb it. Judges, in 2019, 300,000 ordinary investors placed their savings in the Woodford Equity Income Fund. They were told it was accessible, managed, and safe. When the fund suspended all withdrawals, those investors did not lose money because one fund manager, because of a market crash or a bad economic situation. They lost assets because one fund manager was permitted to promise daily liquidity while holding assets that could not be sold for months. No international standard required otherwise, no tool compelled a different outcome, and 300,000 people paid the price for that regulatory silence. The opposition today calls consistent safeguards an overreach, but we call them the barest minimum that people who trust institutions with their life savings are owed. Capital is global, risk is global, and accountability must be global too. The proposition urges you to support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now we hear as well the conclusion by the team from Kathmandu University. You have 2 minutes as well.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, I'll start in 3, 2, 1. Respected judges, before providing the summary of today's debate, I'd like to start by addressing the fact that, as opposed to what the proposition contends, we are not ignoring the reality, but we are rather addressing it. The diversity, which cannot fit into one standard, is the reality. We are not against implementation of standards. We are merely against it in a blanket way. Our model is that the standards stay as guidelines, not obligations. Now, judges, as we conclude this debate, we must ask, is the global economy better served by a single rigid rulebook or by a diverse ecosystem of resilient solutions? We have shown that mandating uniform standards does not eliminate risk, it merely hides it. As our speakers established, these overly complex rules are a culture that they create a culture that forces activity into shadow banking sector. The core clash of today's debate was uniformity versus adaptability. The proposition argued for a top down, one size fits all model, yet they failed to address the reality of regulatory divergence. They assume that passing a global rules means equal enforcement, but as we have shown, the gap between law in theory and law in practice across different nations only creates more opportunities for arbitrage. We argued that true stability comes from diversity. Our model, Standards as Guidelines, allows for evidence based reviews that ensures that a shock in one region does not become a synchronized global collapse. If the purpose of regulation is to ensure a thriving, resilient economy, then we must protect the sovereignty of the states to design the rule that fits their specific markets and their specific realities. International law recognizes that coordination does not mean mandatory uniformity. At the end of this debate, one truth stands clear. In a complex world, the only real safeguard is flexibility. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we just heard the two conclusions, so it means this is the end of the debate itself, and from now you are not under evaluation by the judge. So we'll now collect, of course, your impression, and I give the floor to Miss Lal for this.
Thank you so much, and well done to both teams. It was a very lively debate, and I think we both could really see the amount of research that's been done. So congratulations once again. First, we'll go over some quick reflections. Basically, how did you find the topic? What was the research process like? And of course, the match itself. So starting off with Kathmandu University team, could we hear from Miss Samriddhi Mainali, please?
The topic was quite engaging, and I also liked the process of research, how we went through some research papers, articles, and how we researched in depth too. So it was quite different than the first two round debates that we prepared for earlier. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Now from the University of Lagos, Ms. Osubodu Oluwamuriwa, please.
Hello everyone. That was a very lovely match, as you said. The topic was very new. Actually, it was something very new, coming from the aspect of the multinational asset managers, and it was not something that we're very well accustomed to. But then it was a good chance for us to learn and for us to be exposed to new things about how the world works. So I'm very happy that I was opportunity to participate today. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Same question to Ms. Kritika KC, please.
Thank you so much. So I really personally enjoyed this topic because it was related to investment law, and it was a different kind of sphere for like all of us because it was related to the multinational level of asset managers. We were dealing with this multinational levels, and it was overall a very interesting topic. It was really interesting to go through all of the papers, the articles that were written about it, and even if the topic was new, we really got like into the depth of the core of the argument. And I think I'm really proud of all my teammates for like helping me throughout the preparation of this argument. So
Awesome. Thank you so much. From the University of Lagos team, Mr. Rokib Adibayo, please.
All right. Thank you very much, Ma. First of all, I would like to thank the respected opponents for such beautiful presentations. So, the how I found the research, the topic, like my colleague said, it's a new area, and at first it was so complex. We had to break it down and start research from there. Uh, Although I wouldn't say the research process was easy, it wasn't easy. Yeah, because we just got introduced to new terminologies, complex terminologies. You have to break it down, simplify it for yourself to understand. And so as we move along the way, with the help of my colleagues, we were able to navigate some of these terminologies, some of these points, and also we got to learn certain things with regards to how the multinational asset managers, how they operate, and what kind of on what basis do they operate, and what instances are they allowed to do this and do that. So, and also different liquidity safeguards. I got to know some of these liquidity safeguards as well. It was just a beautiful and interesting experience. Thank you.
Thank you. And I saw the Kathmandu University team nodding in agreement. Miss Surangana Takal, sorry, how did you find the match?
I felt everything that my opponents and my team members felt, but I had already studied investment law before in ninth semester, but then we hadn't really tackled the asset management part of it. So the liquidity standard and international standards, those were the easy aspects of researching for the debate. But when it came into the multinational nature of asset management, so whenever something is multinational, it just becomes more complex and layered. So that part of it was difficult for me to understand because I first wanted to get down the basics of how a multinational asset management works, and so it was a bit difficult to wrap my head around at first. But then I did a lot of reading. A lot of time I spent just reading the basic materials on that, and then I got an idea, and then we moved forward into developing the arguments for the debate. So it was a very fun experience in the researching aspect.
Cool. And last but not least, Mr. Peter Agidi.
Thank you very much. Before I start, I would like to appreciate my respected opponents and colleagues. It was a very good rumble. As regards the research, like I said, or like I always say, it's the egg. They're always going to throw you in the deep seas. I mean, we started with AI. Last time I said I knew more biotechnological terms than a bioscientist, but the next motion threw us into the sea of asset management and investments and whatnot. It was a lot learning the laws, the articles, the nuances between them, because that's where the debate really lies. It was really fun, and it was a good experience. I wouldn't say it was easy, but it was nice. It was eye opening. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you all for sharing. Now moving on to the fun networking questions. So the first is, over the 3 days of matches, do you want to give a shout out to some people who have been inspiring or encouraging you for this competition so far? So perhaps starting off with the University of Lagos this time. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
This is
Oh, I'd like to very internationally give a shout out to my coach in the person of Dr. Isa Adidokun. And we've been having some senior colleagues who have been guiding us throughout this journey. They are right beside us here. They're not in the frame, but I'd like to say a very, very open thank you for their help, for their guidance. I'd like to thank my colleagues also. They've been very, very instrumental, very helpful, and very active to committing to our cause, the Hague debate. So generally, I'm thankful. I'm very thankful. Thank you.
Would the other two members like to add on?
I would like
I mean, yeah, it's a great one. I mean, we'd also like to thank the debates themselves for the Corax Foundation for having us, and also the Muslim Society of because University of Lagos, because that is where it really starts, and that's where the culture of excellence builds it. So we would like to appreciate them on an international stage. So thank you.
All right. Oh, yeah, I'd also like to add something. My colleagues have already appreciated our coaches and every other person. I would also like to appreciate all our opponents from day one to day three. I mean, it's about encouragement. They have encouraged us to do more, be more, and research more and improve on our skills, speaking skills, researching skills, and all of that. So I want to say thank you to every one of you.
How wholesome. Thank you so much for sharing. The same question to the team from Kathmandu University, please.
Should I go first?
Yes.
Okay, so obviously the first shout out goes to my team, my incredible teammates, both of them. I've just known them this year, and it has been great to become teammates with them. And secondly, I'd like to shout out to my sister, who I know is currently watching this debate live, and also to my best friends I know are watching. And I guess that's it. Thank you, everybody.
I'd like to add on to that, and I'd also like to give a shout out to all of my opponents. Our first opponent, UT Austin and Mosaic University and the University of Lagos. You guys are the reason why we're so inspired, and we're inspired to learn more on different subjects and explore more on legal topics. And also we'd like to give shout out to Ms. Surangana Dakal, because she has been guiding us throughout this debate. And yes, she deserves a lot of appreciation from us. And also we'd like to give a shout out to the organizers of the Hague debate for making this platform a successful learning experience for all of us. Thank you.
Okay, then thank you so much. And now for our final question. So is there a legal system, country, or institution and an area of law you would like to study or experience, and why? So this time starting off with Kathmandu University team. So again, is there a legal system, country, or institution / area of law that you would like to study or experience, and why?
So I, during the starting of my law school years, I was really interested in the area of public international law, but then it just seems like it's just there and not doing anything at this point. So I don't know what to say about that. So maybe perhaps for now it is IP law. At least that works still, I hope. And about institution and any country that I would want to go and study, I haven't really thought about it, because it has just been recently that my interest has shifted from public international law to other spheres that now I'm looking into, exploring. So I don't have a mind set up yet, but for now, I'd like to say it is IP law.
Thank you. Ms. Kritika and Ms. Mainali, would you like to add on?
Oh yeah, so my preference in which field I want to practice in the future is still evolving, because we're still in law school. And before, I really wanted to get into the corporate law, and specifically I wanted to get into the IP, the intellectual property law, because I think that it's a very creative place to get into, because you're basically protecting all the new the copyright, the patents of the people. And yes, I would love to get into IP law in the future. And For that, I would love to gain the international exposure as well and go to a different country to further my studies so that I'd have more exposure of different jurisdictions. I'm not too sure which country I want to practice in till now.
So for me, I'm still analyzing what I am interested in, or like what I can do better in, since I'm just a beginner in law school and I'm still exploring the fields. So for now, I think it has to be human rights law, which focuses on justice, advocacy, and protecting the vulnerable populations. So I'm not really sure what I wish to practice on. So maybe I'll explore more about myself and my interests as I study further. So for now, it's just human rights law.
Thank you so much for sharing. And now same question to the University of Lagos team.
I resonate a lot with what my opponent said. My interest in law is ever evolving. Actually, it keeps changing. I think every 6 months at this point. But one thing is for sure, I'm very interested in international law, commercial law, and human rights. I'm very interested in women's rights, children's rights, and for certain, I have always wanted to study in Europe. So I know for sure that I'll be studying in Europe. A particular school, I'm not sure yet, but concerning my interest in law, hopefully I get a definite answer soon.
With me, law is too good to choose. but I mean, I've always wanted to do human rights. I've always been very interested in human rights or whatever. But I also think the IP law space is a good space for me to venture into. But overall, I'm just happy to be here. I'm just glad to be here to be doing my thing. As the school that I'm going to be studying in Europe, I don't know. I don't maybe Harvard, but I don't know. But yeah, but I mean, like I said, I'm just happy to be here. So
Yeah. Oh, so on my hand, I'm still in my fourth year. I'm fourth year law student. I am still exploring different areas of law. However, I am very passionate about maritime law. Yeah, I'm very passionate about maritime law because it deals with high stakes matters, shipping, vessels, and it has a lot of international conventions like the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea and every other international convention. So it's not something that is limited to a particular country. It's cross to borders and all of that. So I'm very, very passionate about maritime law and with regards to school, I think I would like to uh, maybe attend um, any school in the United States of America. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you all for sharing, and definitely there's a lot of overlap. I also am particularly interested in maritime law, so that's quite interesting. But yes, there's a lot of overlap between the two teams, so definitely feel free to reach out to each other via LinkedIn and maintain contact. It's always nice to have, friends in different jurisdictions. But yes, just wishing both teams the very best as you go through the rest of your law school journey. And yes, congratulations once again, and handing it back over to Professor Larange to wrap it up. All the best.
Yes, so well done. That was a very, very interesting, actually, argumentation and debate, and really, very interesting the approach as well, the strategy. So that was the third match for the two teams in this group F. There are two other universities mentioned, Masaryk University and as well the University of Texas at Austin in this group F. So it means in a few days we will have the result of your match and the match as well of the other teams. And then we'll have the final results of the group phase, so the accumulation of all the results. Of course, you will be informed about the result of this match first, and then we'll publish it. And after that, we'll invite you to an event with all the teams. That is a networking event organized by the Corax Foundation in April. I mean, after we get all the results, of course, from all the other groups as well, and at that moment you'll be able to network even more. So we are lucky today to have in this match 2 teams who have been participating several times. We had former participants and coach as well. So so it's I mean, the 2 group of students are very well supported as well by the mood societies they have as well on both sides. So we thank as well the student associations in the 2 universities for the support for this edition as well as the previous edition. So that was a pleasure. We send you, of course, the greetings as well for the rest of the day and maybe the rest of the week as well. Hoping it's not too much in terms of class before the weekend, and we keep in touch obviously, and soon you will receive by email, of course, the news concerning this match. So many thanks, and we keep in touch. Thank you. Bye.